Message yesterday from a retired teacher who has her master's in counseling, and she used to work primarily with emotionally disturbed children. And she was telling me that when she would sit with these kids and learn about their family life and their context, I mean, it was horrifying. She told me of all these real traumas, these big T traumas that these kids have endured. I mean, they were burnt with, I can't even get into it because I don't want to trigger, it's so bad, the stuff that she told me that these kids witnessed. And she was saying, that's real trauma. Like, your parents telling you that you can't borrow their car or them telling you no is not trauma. And she was very respectful, so I thought this would be a very productive conversation, and it was. Because I'm sitting here, I was like, you can't tell someone that what they're experiencing isn't real. That's the nature of emotional abuse and neglect. And to reduce someone's issue to something so trivial, like your parents said no, that's not what's happening. And so what I responded to her was like, those sound like what you experienced. Those were that's physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse. There's these explicit things that you can see. What I'm talking about and what all of these adult children, estranged adult children, have experienced is emotional. It's emotional abuse and neglect. It's not physical, but that doesn't make it any less real. I'll tell you, I've worked with domestic violence victims who say the worst part of their physically abusive relationship is the psychological abuse. Those are the scars and the hardest part because you can't see them. And that's what we're dealing with. That's what my whole practice is around. And there's not enough awareness. And so she's a little older, and her generation, I was reading yesterday that just in the 70s and 80s did physical abuse, sexual abuse become a topic of real conversation in our society. And that's the era that she comes from. That's where her formative training is that era. And so I responded to her and I was like, those are big T traumas. That's PTSD. But what we're learning so much more about these days is something called complex PTSD. And so I asked her, I was like, have you ever heard of ACE scores? Adverse childhood experiences. It's 10 things that if you've experienced them in childhood, you have a higher risk for negative physical outcomes later in life. And emotional abuse and emotional neglect are on there. And that's what these kids are experiencing and continue to experience in estrangement. And this woman, I'm so grateful to her. I almost want to keep talking with her because it was so productive, both for me and for her to understand where she's coming from and for her to understand where I'm coming from. But I think the overall thing was she was like, oh no, I haven't heard of that. I'll look into it. But the overall thing is that this is new information. Emotional abuse and emotional neglect. These are new terms that we're defining, and it doesn't make them any less real or any less hurtful and traumatizing.